All right, let's talk about that amazing feeling. You know the one. It's Saturday morning, the alarm is off, and you just sleep in. It feels like the best reward for a tough week, right? But what if I told you that simple little luxury is actually at the center of a huge scientific debate? Is it saving your health, or is it secretly making things a whole lot worse? Today we are going to get to the bottom of the great debate on sleeping in.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into the whole idea of sleep debt, something many of us are way too familiar with. Then, we're going to look at the powerful case against trying to catch up on sleep. But right after that, we'll flip the script and explore some really surprising health benefits. We'll introduce a crucial concept called social jet lag. And then, finally, we're going to put all the pieces together and solve this sleep paradox once and for all.
Okay, let's start with a simple reality of modern life. For most of us, getting a full night's sleep during the work week, it just doesn't happen. And this creates a problem that quietly builds up night after night.
I mean, just think about it. Monday to Friday, you are running on fumes, right? You're cutting sleep short to deal with deadlines, long commutes, or just, life. So by the time the weekend finally rolls around, you're totally exhausted. This shortfall, this feeling of being drained, it isn't just in your head. It's a real, measurable thing called sleep debt.
And we're not talking about a small problem here. In the US alone, get this. Over 35% of adults are consistently getting less than the recommended 7 hours of sleep a night. That means more than a third of us are racking up this sleep debt every single week, setting the stage for that desperate weekend marathon in bed.
So you'd think repaying that debt is just simple math, right? Lose 2 hours here, gain 2 hours there, and you're all good. Well, the first side of this argument says, it is not that easy. In fact, trying to catch up might come with a pretty serious metabolic cost. So, to test this, researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder set up this really cool experiment. They took a bunch of healthy young adults and split them into 3 groups. Group 1, the lucky ones, got to sleep a full 9 hours every night. Group 2 was put on a restricted schedule, just 5 hours a night. And Group 3? Well, they got to live out our modern life, 5 hours a night during the week, but then on the weekend, they could sleep in for as long as they wanted.
And the results were? Well, they were not what you'd expect. Everybody thought the sleep-restricted group would have metabolic issues, and they did. Their body's insulin sensitivity dropped by about 13%. But, and this is the wild part, look at the catch-up group. After their weekend recovery, their insulin sensitivity in key places like their muscles and liver actually got worse. It dropped anywhere from 9 to a whopping 27%. Their bodies were struggling to manage blood sugar even more than the folks who were just consistently sleep-deprived.
The lead author, Kenneth Wright, put it really bluntly. He said this whole yo-yoing sleep pattern is simply not an effective health strategy. So, case closed, right? Trying to catch up is a bad idea. Well, not so fast.
Just when you think the science is all settled, a totally different kind of research comes along. This time, we're not looking at small lab groups, but at huge populations over many, many years. And it tells a completely different, and frankly, kind of shocking story.
What if I told you that for some people, sleeping in on the weekend was linked to a nearly 20% lower risk of developing heart disease? I know, right? That's exactly what a massive new study found, and it turned this entire debate right on its head.
Okay, let's look at the data from this huge UK biobank study. Researchers followed almost 91,000 people for nearly 14 years, and what they found was a super clear pattern. Basically, the more catch-up sleep people got on the weekend, the lower their risk of heart disease, stroke, and heart failure. The group that slept in the most had a 19% lower risk than the group that barely caught up at all. So, what is going on here? How can sleeping in be damaging to our metabolism but protective for our hearts?
Okay, to solve this paradox, we have to bring in a new idea. It's a term that perfectly describes this hidden stress our modern schedules put on us. It's called social jet lag.
Social jet lag is basically what happens when your internal body clock is totally out of sync with your social clock. Your work schedule. By forcing yourself to wake up early for work on weekdays and then crashing back to your natural rhythm on the weekends, you're essentially giving your body the equivalent of flying across a couple of time zones. Every single week.
And you can actually calculate your own. It's pretty simple. It's just the difference between the midpoint of your sleep on workdays and your sleep on free days. So let's say on a weekday, you sleep from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Your sleep midpoint is 3 a.m. But on the weekend, you crash from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. Now your midpoint is 5 a.m. That 2-hour difference, that's your social jet lag.
And this weekly whiplash is not just some quirky thing, it has serious, quantifiable consequences. Research shows that for every single hour of social jet lag, your risk of obesity goes up by 1/3. Your likelihood of heart disease increases by 11%. And if you have 2 or more hours of social jet lag, your risk for type 2 diabetes can actually double. This is the hidden price we pay for being inconsistent.
Okay, so now we have the two major pieces of the puzzle. We know that catching up on sleep seems to help our hearts, but the crazy schedule shift that comes with it seems to wreck our metabolism. So let's bring it all together and finally solve this thing. So here it is, the crucial point. Sleeping in is a trade-off. On one hand, you have sleep quantity. Getting those extra hours is good. It pays back some of that sleep debt and eases the strain on your cardiovascular system. But on the other hand, you have sleep inconsistency, which is bad. Shifting your schedule creates that social jet lag, which messes with your internal clock and your metabolism. The real question is, where's the tipping point where the good outweighs the bad?
And the answer, it turns out, lies in the dose. This isn't an all-or-nothing deal. When you look across a bunch of different studies, a consensus starts to emerge. The sweet spot seems to be a modest catch-up. We're talking about 1 to 2 extra hours of sleep. This amount seems to give you those restorative benefits without creating a massive, damaging amount of social jet lag.
So what's the final takeaway? What should you actually do? Well, number 1, consistency is king. Always aim for a regular sleep schedule first. That is the gold standard. But look, we live in the real world. If you do fall short during the week, a modest catch-up of 1 to 2 hours can actually help. The key is to avoid those huge, excessive lions of more than 2 hours, because that's where the nasty effects of social jet lag really seem to kick in. And of course, the real goal, the ultimate solution, is to just prioritize getting enough sleep every single night.
And all this leaves us with one final big question to think about. We treat sleep debt like it's a financial problem, something we can just pay back over the weekend. But maybe it's not a scheduling issue at all. Maybe what we're really looking at is a fundamental conflict between the nonstop demands of our modern world and the ancient, unchanging needs of our own biology.